Let's go to Washington. Our correspondent Philip Crowther is there. And Philip, it's difficult to interpret Trump's tweet any other way. He's pretty clear. He says he's getting ready to bomb Syria tonight. There has been a slightly more measured tone from the Pentagon, however. So what exactly is happening now?
Well, usually it is the Pentagon, the Defense Department, that is that little bit more cautious, and that is certainly the case here tonight. From what we heard from Jim Mattis, the Defense Secretary, who, by the way, just arrived at the White House for a meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump in the Oval Office, undoubtedly that is a discussion that will be about Syria, between two men who are saying very different things when it comes to Syria. James Mattis earlier today said this, that the United States is still assessing the evidence. The United States still deciding, trying to get the information as to who exactly was responsible for the chemical weapons attack in Syria. Now, most people would say it was the regime of Bashar al-Assad, but most people includes those who might stage a military response, and they need concrete proof. So Jim Mattis, in that sense, is actually closer to what we've been hearing from the French President Emmanuel Macron over the last few days. He also says before any military intervention is staged on behalf of, for example, France and the United States, there has to be concrete proof of who was responsible for that chemical weapons attack. That's the one more cautious approach on one side. On the other, you have the U.S. president with those tweets this morning basically announcing military strikes from the United States and clearly stating who the U.S. president, who Donald Trump believes is responsible for that chemical weapons attack at the weekend in Syria. The U.S. president believes it was the regime of Bashar al-Assad. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, also said the same at the United Nations Security Council. It's probably only a matter of days before both France and the United States believe they have enough information and enough facts to back up their claims for them then to stage that military attack that we believe is being planned right now.
Now, this is a bit of a turnaround for Trump, isn't it? Because it wasn't so long ago he was saying, you know, America first, let's get out of Syria. And here he is suggesting, saying that he will go back in. What about the level of public support, though, for military action in Syria? Where does that lie now?
You know, there actually isn't any polling available at this point as to the immediate reactions of Americans right now at this moment in time to the possibility of that type of military intervention in Syria. At the same time, you don't know exactly what to ask people, right? You don't know exactly what kind of an attack this might be. Maybe just that one-day attack one night, like was the case 1 year ago with those Tomahawk missiles, 59 of them precisely, that were shot at the Syrian military base at the time. That was also a response to that purported chemical attack by the regime. Now, what we do know in terms of popular support or not, again, takes us back to last year, to that only time that the U.S. administration staged a direct military attack on the regime of Bashar al-Assad. At the time, there was just about over 50% of support of the American people for that type of a military intervention. At the same time, more broadly speaking, this is definitely a country that will support troops getting out of war zones. There are quite a few thousand U.S. troops in Syria right now. They are acting as advisors and trainers, at least officially, and the U.S. president, as you said, mentioned not too long ago that he wanted those troops to come home. That is usually something that gets widespread support in the United States. But there's one other aspect to this popular support that you asked me about. Whenever the United States goes to war, though it pretty much is already, but stages large-scale attacks, that is when support for the country, for the administration, and for the president almost always goes up. That is something that you can expect to happen if indeed there is that awaited military response in the next few days.